Okay, great. So welcome everybody to the March Manufacturing Virtual Marketo User Group meeting. This is being recorded, so Thursday, March 22nd. And so let me just do a quick introduction. My name is Michael Tucker. I'm your host for the Manufacturing Virtual Marketo User Group. And so today our speaker is Bruce McDuffie, who's going to be talking about engagement programs. And before we do that, I'm going to just go through just a quick introduction on a couple of things here, just for housekeeping points. I want to start out with just a very quick roll call, kind of what we did last meeting, and just keep it a little bit tighter, just for us to quickly get to know each other. The idea of this is that this is a user group, and it's not just a one-sided webinar. So actively encouraging participation, and all your microphones are unmuted so that you have the ability to quickly chime in. And the more of us that contribute to the discussion, I think that the stronger that makes the content for everybody who's participating and everybody who's watching this online as well. So I'm really glad that all of you are able to make it, and looking forward to digging in here and learning something. So we'll cover Marketo Summit. I've got some interesting news from Marketo about that, that's specifically for manufacturers, some upcoming news. And then afterwards, we have the ability to do one-on-one breakout rooms or breakout rooms with smaller groups. So keep that in mind as well too. So a couple of rules here just to start off on our group values. So number one, this is a really safe place. So there's no such thing as a dumb question. I truly believe that, and I hope you do as well too. So I want you to feel safe and comfortable to be able to ask questions here. And we are all here to learn, which also means that we're all here because there's something about this platform that we don't know or maybe want to refresh ourselves about. So I think that having the humility to be able to accept that, first of all, is one of the key components to learning. So I very much feel that way, and I hope you all do as well too. Collaborative atmosphere, so we touched on that. Everything's unmuted. Fun and enjoyable sessions. We're all investing our time into this, so we might as well enjoy that at the same time. So I hope that feel free to play or joke around, and I think that helps us in terms of being able to learn. And then also that it's professional and that there's a value added component to this as well too. So, really excited from what Bruce has prepared here, and I think you will be as well. So first off, I want to quickly go through and just do a quick roll call for everybody that's on the call, and to get just a sense of who you are, what your title is, your company, and just quickly how long you've used Marketo. If you just do that in a minute or so, it's great. And keep an eye out if there's somebody in particular that you really want to meet with. Obviously, it's not a real live session, so it's not like we can meet afterwards at the bar or at the appetizer table, but if you want to, just let me know afterwards, and then I can set up breakout sessions so that you're able to chat on a smaller group level. So let's start off, and Ethan, if you could just lead us off here and just give us a quick introduction to yourself and how long you've used Marketo.
Sure, yeah. Hey everybody, my name is Ethan Warlick. My job title is Marketing Automation Manager. I work at a company called Census. We recently got acquired, so now we have a cool tagline. So we're Census Asylum brand. We're in the utilities, smart cities, a lot big in the water kind of industry space. And I've been using Marketo for about 2.5 years. I'm about to be taking my certificate exam at Summit. I know it's a long time coming, but I'm going to go ahead and get that exam taken on. And I look forward to meeting everyone at Summit if you're going.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Josh, you're next.
Yeah, Joshua Paradise. I'm also Marketing Automation Manager with GE Ventures and GE Business Innovation, and I've been using Marketo for about 4 months.
Okay, great. And Mark, you're next.
Hi, I'm Mark Santos. I am a Senior Marketing Manager for Channel Marketing at Ansel. We manufacture what they call personal protective equipment, and I've been using Marketo for about 6 months now, if that.
Okay, great, thanks. And Rachel, you're next.
Hi, I'm Rachel Martinez de la Catera. My job title is Marketing Specialist. I work for CNH Industrial, and I've been using Marketo for probably a year now.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. I think, Bruce, you're the last person on there, and then I'll take a stab at it, and then we can move on.
Okay, my name is Bruce McDuffie, and I'm the director owner of my company manufacturing marketing group, where we focus on helping manufacturers modernize and improve their marketing. Been using Marketo about 3 years, and I'm looking forward to the presentation today.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. My name is Michael Tucker. I'm a marketing technology consultant, and I have my own company as well called The Conversion Store. So I've been using Marketo for, I guess, just under 2 years now, and have done a lot of work with manufacturers. And so I'm very excited to be part of this group and helping to build it together with all of you. So appreciate all of that. And let's move on to our next slide here. And so we'll jump in initially and just kind of talk a little bit about what's happening at Marketo Summit. So we're just a little under a month away from that. So if you haven't registered yet, I would highly recommend you do that. One thing I really wanted to share here, which I think is really great news, is I've just heard from Megan Rao at Marketo that Marketo is actually going to have a breakout session that, if you go into the agenda, it's specifically for manufacturing users. And so she's asked if I would be willing to help moderate that and facilitate that event. So the two of us are going to be in a breakout room, and hopefully all of you are able to come to that. And that'll be at San Francisco Moscone Center this year. So final time on that, I think it's April 29th to May the 2nd. Might be wrong on those dates a little bit, but it's definitely on the website. And the other thing that I think is great to notice is we've made arrangements actually as manufacturing VMUG members. We have set up a special discount code exclusively for you. So Marketo has lobbed off $350 off the price. So if you go to marketo.com and then click under their Fearless Leader event, at the checkout, if you put in MVMUG 350, you'll get $350 off your discount. So it's extra incentive for you to attend. One piece of news I just want to quickly mention, and just trying to kind of get through these quickly so that Bruce has as much time as possible, is that one thing I saw recently in my feed coming in from Marketo is that the Winter 2018 release is out, and the upcoming webinar for that is April 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. Of course, I think you all saw this in your Marketo screen when you logged in, but I always like to go to the webinar because they show you some of the use cases of how these new features are being implemented. And I guess a couple that I'm interested are the account hierarchies that are going to come in from your CRM for account-based marketing. Adbridge looks like they're doing some work in terms of adding some features for targeting on Google and LinkedIn if you use those channels for your promotions. And the other thing that I think is really neat that I'm personally working on with my instances is the API for activation and deactivations. So, some of my clients have really large distribution channels for their clients. And being able to have the API actually be able to activate different smart campaigns and different elements in your instance is something that would save me a lot of time to be able to roll out some of these campaigns programmatically to the group. So anyway, so that's it for me. Really going to turn the stage over to Bruce. And let me tell you just a little bit about Bruce. So Bruce is over 10 years of experience working in all levels of marketing leadership with manufacturing firms throughout North America. His target audiences really span the globe, and they're based in industries such as semiconductors, life sciences, food processing, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, and general heavy manufacturing. Bruce currently serves as the founder and director of the Manufacturing Marketing Group, and he's the author of the book, The New Way to Market for Manufacturing. So please join me in a virtual applause to welcome Bruce.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks everybody for coming out today, and I'm going to share my screen here. And then I'll go into slide mode. Okay, everyone seeing that?
Looks good to me.
Okay. So if you'd like, I'd love to connect with everybody who's here today. You can connect with me at one of my Twitter accounts. You can see them at the bottom of the slide there, the company one, MMI Matters, or my personal Twitter, or check out my website. And be glad. And I've also got a LinkedIn. Actually, that's on the next slide. This is better. Put this in at the last minute. LinkedIn, personal Twitter, company Twitter, or email. I'm glad to connect with everybody. We'll be talking about the Marketo engagement programs today. And before I get into it, Michael has a poll and get a little idea of, have you guys used them and how much you've used them and that type of thing. Michael, can you launch the poll?
Okay.
How many programs have you currently in use in your Marketo instance to date? More than 5, between 2 and 5, and less than 2. And generally, I was curious too, if is there anyone on the call that feels they have a lot of experience and expertise in engagement programs? You can type that, or you can say it out loud too, I guess. But.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the polling here, it looks like a lot of people are just getting started with this. So let me share the results here, just so you can see.
Oh, wow. Everyone's less than 2.
Yeah.
All right.
So
does that mean I'm the expert here? That's a scary thought.
I think you are. I've used them a little bit with some of my clients,
okay.
But my experience has been that a lot of them have used default programs first, and I think we have usually like 1 or 2 in an instance that I've seen to date.
Okay, good. Well, that's good, because this is a basics overview of engagement programs. And this is what we'll cover today, is what is an engagement program. And then we'll talk a little strategically about why manufacturers should be using them or considering them. And then I'll go into the tool and show how to actually create one and show how they work. And then we'll look at a little bit of measurement to see if how the content is being received. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so what is an engagement program? You can actually, there's 2 ways to do a nurturing stream in Marketo. You can use the engagement programs, and then you can use your campaigns. And engagement programs are a relatively newer way to nurture your contacts. It's a program, and it automatically manages the nurturing streams. And it gives you a lot of options and logic. The advantages are you can change the order of delivery just by drag and drop. You can ensure that people do not receive the same content twice. You can adjust the timing very easily, much more easily than the campaign and the flow steps. And you can control when someone jumps out from one stream into another. So if you want to move people from the initial investigation stage to the final stage of the funnel or whatever it is, you can set that up automatically. So they're very versatile. They're easier than the campaigns, and they're more flexible. So basically what it is, it's a program that automatically moves people from one stage, one activity, usually an email, to the next automatically. So why should you use engagement programs? Well, I just mentioned a couple of reasons, and one is because they automatically deliver that content to the right person at the right time, which of course is the fundamentals of good content marketing. And it truly is set and forget. Even if you have a piece of content that's time sensitive, whatever reason that may be, you can even set it to only be active during a certain time period. It's, as we know, email nurturing. You get TOMA. You guys know what TOMA is, top of mind awareness. You get credibility, and you get reciprocity. I call that the secret formula for business growth for manufacturers. And so when you nurture contacts and give them the right content at the right time, and when they're ready for it, if you can get that fine-tuned, that's where you can get that top of mind awareness. So even though they may not be ready to buy when they're getting the content or getting the email, when the day comes around and they're ready to purchase, you're going to get the call because you've been sharing that great information, and they want to reciprocate and give you the call and ideally give you the business. You can maximize the use of your content instead of one and done. So what I mean is, a lot of times we'll create a piece of content, put it on the website, blast out an email, and then think we're done with it. But really, if you think about it, a good engagement with an email, with a good piece of content, what is it, 10, 20% click-through rates? So 90% to 80% of the people have never even engaged with it, don't even know about it. So why throw that content out? If you put that in these engagement programs, you can keep putting it out there. And then you can also decide from the results, does anybody care or does anybody like it? Do they love it? Do they not like it? And so on. And I'll show that here when we get into the tool. And you can pretty much set it and forget it. I mean, you've got to monitor it. You've got to look at the results and see how the content is playing with the audience. But you can just about set it up and let it run for as long as you want. So that's why I think the main reason why you should use them is they're easy, flexible, and they're going to engage much better with your audience and your contacts than if like an email blast, for example. Anything so far? Any questions or comments?
It's pretty good to me.
Use cases. You may be thinking, well, what are some specific cases for a manufacturer to use engagement programs? One I mentioned is nurturing contacts. You may want to nurture your contacts until to a certain call to action. Upsell, they're great for upsell. So if somebody made a purchase, you can automatically set it up to propose via email some additional products to buy or services. And that's the case I'm going to show later. You can move prospects through the buying cycle by moving them from one type of content to another based on their activity or their profile, if you're collecting via like progressive profiling. You can nurture leads in marketing until they get to a certain lead score where they're a marketing qualified lead. Nurture or email engagement programs are great for that. Your sales team will learn to love you if they don't already. Nurture, and then is anyone, you guys out there, I know it doesn't look like there's a lot of experience with engagement programs, but anyone have a use case that it's not on this list that they've done or would like to do?
We do a lot of the nurturing contacts to a CTA, that top one. So we're new to it. We have one track going with 5 pieces of content. And what we've been doing is after an event, we send the hot leads over to sales, and then we put the warm or cold or unknown leads in the nurture program and kind of turn that on for 5 weeks and see where they go.
Cool. And that's with the engagement program?
Yeah, but we just ran it for the second time, so we keep going back and updating subject lines and changing copy and just trying to. I think we end up spending too much time doing the planning and not executing with it.
Okay, that's a great example. Anybody else?
I was thinking an example I had a client in the software business here in Toronto who had used them for recycled leads. So they had a Salesforce instance hooked into the Marketo instance and would basically manage any leads that did not close and had not been, there was no activity for I think 2 months after that opportunity was closed. They would put into an engagement to try and see if they could warm them back up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a re-engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
Warm people up. Yeah, it's great for that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about how these work then. And at this point, I'm going to open up the Marketo instance and show an example of, I set this up for one of my clients who they manufacture electronic measurement instruments for the environment. like in this relative humidity or temperature or carbon dioxide, dew point, things like that. So let me get into the tool here. I think I have to reshare. Bear with me. Okay,
Perfect.
you guys, you seeing it? Okay, good.
That looks good to me.
Okay, so this particular case, the company manufactures these measurement instruments. So they sell, for example, a humidity measurement instrument. These are high-end ones. These are like, they can be $2,000 to $3,000 per instrument, used in pharmaceutical, medical device, food storage, for example. The instruments should be recalibrated after 1 year, regardless of the use. So they were getting people to return their instruments to their calibration lab, a rate of about 10%, which is pretty low. So there's 90% of the instruments they're selling out there are going someplace else for calibration. So the objective was, the goal was we want to get more instruments back for calibration. And the way we decided to do it was to offer valuable information about calibration. So give them, here's why you should calibrate. Here's some details about calibration that helped them understand what it was. And we did that with a engagement stream. So the steps, oops, I didn't show that step slide, but basically the steps are, first you create your content. So if we look on the screen here, I've got it set up. We're looking at this calibration one. So I've got it set up down here with the 5 emails. So one is, welcome, thanks for your purchase. Did you know you're supposed to calibrate? What is uncertainty? Uncertainty is like an accuracy. Show you what it looks like here. I always like to see other people's emails, right? So it looks like this. So it's a lot of text, but this audience likes the details. And here they can download this guide on, that's the uncertainty guide. So the first step is to make the emails. And you can, in engagement programs, you can include programs within the program, but we're not going to go into that today. It's a little advanced. So we're just going to assume we're sharing emails with content included in the emails. So first step, you make your emails, and the next step is to create the program. So I remember when I first looked into these, I said, I don't know how to create the program. It's one of the first steps. So basically all you do is you create a regular program, like all of them, and give it a name. And then on program type, you click engagement. And then the only option for channel is nurture. Then you can give it a description. And then it creates your program, whatever folder you put it in. And now you're ready to build it out with your, with your asset folders and your campaign folders and such. So we're back up here. So then the next step is to build the streams. So you look at the top, like all the Marketo screens here, you've got the dashboard, then you've got the streams. You can build multiple streams. I don't even know what the maximum is. Do you, Michael?
You know what? I don't off the top of my head. That's a good question.
I think you can get up to like 10 or 12 if you want to. It's more than you'll probably ever use unless you're really sophisticated. So this particular one has 2 streams. So if I wanted to create another stream, I just click on add a stream up here. It brings another one up. And the use on these is typically going to be, they're moving from one part of the buying process or the sales funnel to another. Is pretty typical. So for this one, I said the first stream is, here's the educational content. And you can add these emails with this plus up here, and then just select the email, or what is even easier is you can just drag one in. So if I wanted to add a humidity email in, all I do is drag it in, and there it is. And the other nice thing about these is you can move it around. If I want to, this is already in process and I want to add this one in, I can move it up to the top. And then it automatically knows that it's new. So anybody who's down here is going to come back and get this one because it's new. So that logic is built in. So you build the streams and then you set the cadence. You do that with this little hyperlink here. And you can pick how often you want it to repeat, weekly or monthly. You can pick the first cast. What a cast does is it goes out and looks for everything in Marketo that has a flow step that says add to this engagement program. So on the day of the cast, whatever's current and pending to be entered to this program kind of gets queued up. So there's an initial cast, and then you can tell it how often. So if we wanted to say weekly, we pick the first one is going to be Friday, and we want to send it every week on Tuesday. So even though the first cast is not on a Tuesday, it doesn't have to be. Then going forward, every week on Tuesday at 12:15 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, that's going to go. It's going to execute. So wherever anybody is on that stream, they're going to get an email. So they don't all move together. They're all moving. They're all at different parts of the nurture stream, depending on when they entered. And the next step is the transition rules. Now you would think that if I'm going to transition from calibration nurture to the next stream, which would say be sales part of the funnel, you would think that you do the transition rule in the first one, but you don't. You set the transition rule in the one that is going to be transition 2. And so the way you do this is, I already made one here. So you go into edit, and it looks just like a campaign. So you've got your list, and then you've got your flow. And this is pre-made based on the engagement program. So for example, this one, I'm saying if the lead score is greater than 100, then I want to pull them into the next stream. It's making sense?
It's looking pretty good to me. I have a question for you if I can.
Sure.
So on the cadence that you're just showing there, I saw that there's a checkbox there for the recipient's times. I think that's that last update that Marketo did last year about being able to send off the time zone of the recipient. If you're when you're doing a campaign that's out to a larger audience, maybe it's an international audience and they're in different time zones, do you usually use that checkbox, or I guess on some of the older ones, would you set up a different stream or a different campaign to people based on what time zone that they're located in then?
I never did, no. We were always, we were US based only.
Okay.
So even so, 2 or 3 hour difference didn't make much difference, but that's a good idea. You could do it either way. I guess this one says that people receive emails at the scheduled time in their respective time zones. So 12:15 p.m., no matter where they are, that's the time they get the email. That's a great feature.
For you, some of the people in the audience, I think, was it Ethan or was it Mark that was telling me that you're doing international, you work with international audiences. Do you guys have kind of a best practice that you use in that sense, just for your time zone planning?
I haven't done the new update yet. Mostly it's kind of like cruise control. I just fear getting into that realm. It's an unsureness for me. So we usually segment our programs to be North America specific and international. So those are always set on the specific times we choose. So I'm still sending stuff at like 2 a.m. I'm trying to get away from that.
Okay.
How much trouble can you get in with marketing automation? I mean, come on.
I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
It can be a lot, right? We all got our stories.
Yeah, we used we're just in North America. Well, well, technically our programs only run in North America, but we use the time based on the region. So if we were shooting for like 8 a.m. in the East, we would hit 8 a.m. in the West, because we knew we were trying to keep all our variables the same to see what type of response we would get, and you want to take the time out of it. So for us, we would just normalize to the time zones in each geographic region. Just takes one variable out.
That's a good point. If you're comparing results, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'd use something like inferred country or country to basically kind of smart list in your, let's say that it's not an engagement program, that you'd have it in like your campaign basically to help to segment people out that way, or you'd actually use the segmentation in Marketo to kind of say, here's the whole group of the audience that I want within this time zone based on a couple of different countries.
We segmented our audience. We just stayed in the U.S., but we do Canada and we will do Mexico. But we basically segmented it before, so we knew what region they'd sit in based on contact information that we had, and then we would just map it to that.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. Thanks.
Okay, so we've set our cadence, we've set our transition rules, and then one step you have to do is you have to activate your content. You see how this is grayed out? That's because it's not active. And you can activate them one at a time, or you can activate them all at once, but you can't deactivate all at once. So that's the trick. So you have to if you activate them all and then you want to deactivate, you got to do them one at a time. And then you've got to decide who you're going to add to these. And you add them like any other type of campaign. I had one, oops, I'm in the wrong one. Initial entry is just a smart list. And this one was for a checkbox. I think this was integrated with Salesforce. And then the flow, you just pick the step, add to engagement program. And then that'll add them in. So you can set it up any trigger. When salesman checks a box, or when somebody views a web page, or you guys know the triggers, you can set any of that up. And then all you have to do is just put this step in for the flow. And it's a nice feature, because if you want to trigger off, if somebody visits a specific web page, like a calibration web page or certification page 2 times, you could automatically drop them into the nurturing program. Some might consider that kind of aggressive, but marketing, we got to be aggressive, right?
So that one's done right off of the sales team. Basically, the sales team has control over. Okay.
Yeah, and then this one here, this is an ongoing entry, and so this is the one that if that same field changes, and then engaged, see what I did on this one. If they clicked on a link in this specific email, I must have sent this out separately. So,
okay.
But you can set up your campaign to add them in however you want. And then last part is measurement. And Marketo has a nice dashboard here that gives you an idea of how many people went into the engagement program, and then how many actually engaged. And I believe engaged just means they clicked on the email, a link in the email. And then you've got the engagement number over here. This is Marketo's engagement number. It's a top secret algorithm. Nobody knows what it is, but generally, if you want to, the higher the number, the better the engagement. And it'll stack them based on the best ones. You can get a better idea on this humidity nurturing program. You can see these did a little bit better. So I could tell right off this 12 essential tools email was the best performing. And then I can see the worst one is they didn't like this email book too. And interestingly, typically the first email they get is going to be the best engagement, but in this case, it was the worst. So I might take this email and open it up and look at it, and I might try making a change or I might test a couple of subject lines or something like that. That's the beauty of the measurement here in these dashboards, is you can see very quickly how these programs are doing. And it gives an overall engagement score too. So if you've got several different engagement programs going, you can see, I think I had one that did 79 as an overall, did fantastic. And I guess it was doing too good because then I quit doing it.
Nice.
Do you know the algorithm for the engagement score and how that kind of comes into play?
I don't, and anytime I've ever asked, they don't tell you.
Okay, that's a secret sauce kind of question.
Yeah, I think it is. Michael, do you know on that?
No, they always say it's proprietary, so that's something that they I think when you get that will be right after you get the secret recipe for Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got to be something about, like clicks, and it's got to be combination clicks, opens, and, the stuff that you would put in it, but who knows what the details are.
Yeah. I think there's a document in the community that, talks about some of the inputs that they use for that. So they won't tell you what it is, but they'll tell you kind of some of the things that they look at. It's been probably a year since I've seen it, but that might be something that we could dig up, or if one of you finds it, if you post that in the discussion group, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that, and I've seen that too, Michael. It's a good point.
Yeah, maybe we can take that as a takeaway for all of us. If whoever finds it first gets a high five at Summit.
And one thing that you don't see in this dashboard, because none of these are running anymore, but you would see this graph here in the exhaustion section. It would tell you how many people are queued up and how close they are to be completely through the engagement stream. And that can be pretty handy, because if you start seeing a drop, then you can take action to get more people into the program, and it'll tell you how many have exhausted. It's pretty good. It's a good little dashboard.
And just to make sure that I have the exhaustion is if you blow through all of the content in a specific stream, right?
Yeah, you're exhausted from the engagement stream if you've seen all the content.
Right.
So if your contact has gone through here and it's been exhausted, and then you drop a new piece of content in the stream, they'll all go back and get that, even though they've been through the stream, because they're still in the program.
Bruce, do you know is it whether you've seen the content or whether you've been sent it?
That's what I was reading up on that before I did this presentation, and according to the documentation, it's received the content even in different channels if you've received the content. But I'm not 100% clear if that means it has to be the same email. So that's you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I remember there being an area where when you're going through a stream, if there's a piece that you have added in from, let's say, a different program or a different campaign, that let's say you're repurposing a piece for your stream, Marketo will be able to kind of sense that and we'll skip over that piece in the stream. Yeah,
that's the way it's presented. And again, I'm not sure if it knows that somebody downloaded the PDF, for example, or clicked on the PDF link, or if it's tracked by the email itself, like if you use the same email on different channels. I'm not sure. I've been told two different things by Marketo.
I ran into this once where I literally had to clone an email. It was the same email asset, but just to put that into the engagement program and then add that into the stream afterwards, because the client specifically wanted to have they wanted to repurpose it, but the idea was that this would be an email that I think it was actually in that example I was talking about earlier with it was a Salesforce recycled nurture. And so they, we would clone that out because it would be to such a length that they wouldn't have seen it for maybe 6 months or longer. So the idea was, they may have seen it before, but you actively want them to see this piece of content again, to try and reignite them, if you will.
Yep. I don't think I have anything else to share on this. I did want to show this this edit availability option. I mentioned this earlier, but it's kind of a cool option where you can take this particular content and you can say, I only want it active from the 22nd to the 31st. And then if you save that, that means that after the 21st or after the 31st, this won't be active anymore. So like if you had a webinar, you could drop in the webinar invitation, put it into the engagement stream, and then make sure that it isn't inviting people to the webinar after it's already been broadcast. I think that's kind of a cool feature.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm sure that can work for seasonal and non-evergreen content as well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Hey Bruce, do you from your background, whenever it comes to multiple streams, are you doing that like by use case? Is it always based on score, or is it always prospect or customer? Is it like your relationship with the person, or does it just depend on the the KPI or the ROI that you're trying to get out of a program for the year?
It'll depend on the objective. So if the objective is to say create an MQL, then it'll be based either on a lead score or on a salesperson's activities or even page visits. So it can be, so for example, if somebody's getting the calibration education and then they go and they download the lab certification, that would trigger them into the next one, which would be bottom of the funnel stuff.
Cool.
That answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to work on our marketing communications team, and they have a lot of content. I'm trying to get it in order and strategically approach it. But everyone has different ideas of what they want it to be, because they want it to be kind of a one-size-fits-all thing, and then we cascade it across verticals. But what I'm trying to do is specific for each vertical's performance for the year, or what their bottom line is. I'm trying to match up with that.
Yeah. My advice on this kind of thing is to start very simple. Start with something very simple just to get it going, and then you can build on it. So whether it's starting with one vertical or one particular offering or something, because I always find myself personally, if I try to make it into if I have a big project and I try to make a huge thing or a big thing, it's never going to get done. So I don't know if that helps, but
it helps to know I'm not alone.
Okay, you're not alone. That's for sure. Any other questions or comments? You guys think does it look like something you'll try?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I encourage you to do it, man. Manufacturing is typically, you guys, I would say, are probably the advanced marketers for manufacturing, because you're here at this presentation. But my experience is most manufacturers have a hard time even launching a 3 email nurturing stream, in no matter what tool they're using. So if you can get this down where you're nurturing your contacts and you're sharing useful information, and then get them over to the final part, the bottom of the funnel, when it's appropriate, you can get that timing right. It's an opportunity, because I guarantee your competition is not doing it. I'd be surprised if there was 10% of manufacturers out there doing this type of marketing.
I'm really interested, actually, Bruce. One of the things that you kind of touched on here when you were saying, so this nurture is 90% of the you're trying to capture the 90% of the people that are going elsewhere to calibrate their instruments. And that actually is pretty similar to something that I'm, one of the mandates that I have where we're trying to increase service. So, I have somebody I work with in the automotive space, and they want to increase the service, the amount of servicing that they're receiving from their customers, both for their products and for third-party products through their network, their distribution network. How do you go through to kind of identify who gets qualified for the engagement programs? Are you actually able to kind of track, I don't think planned obsolescence is the right word, but at a certain point in terms of the lifetime since they've purchased the actual product? Is that how you're kind of saying you might be due for calibration every 6 months afterwards, or how do you determine who gets qualified, I guess, for an engagement?
For this calibration program?
Yeah.
It's purchase date. So we bring the purchase date in a custom field from Salesforce over to Marketo. And then when we're 11 months plus after the purchase date, that's when they enter the program.
Okay.
Or it might have been 10 months, but it's from the purchase date. So it starts warming them up to calibration. They start thinking about it and learning about the importance of it, because you may or may not be surprised, but there's a lot of instruments out there that never get calibrated.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that being important. So basically it's 11 months out. So, but is it fair to kind of assume that like 12 months is basically the standard for calibration for that industry? So you're trying to give a month's lead time?
Yes, that's right.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because for humidity instruments, it's recommended every 12 months, unless it's a harsh environment.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a salesman for this business too, and I remember I went out to visit a client. They were complaining about the instrument, saying it seems to be way off. I don't know how he knew, but he said it seems to be way off. It's not measuring right. So I went out. We went up on the top of this big building, and we found the sensor. And I looked at the calibration sticker, and it was 8 years since it had been calibrated. Wow. And typically they'll drift about 1% a year. So it's like, well, that's why it doesn't work, because you never calibrated it. Right. Side story.
No, for sure. Yeah, one of my old clients used to sell software to track inspections. So I think one of you works in the PPE space, and a lot of that inspection was just checking PPE to make sure that it's up to date. So the scheduling and the timing of that is important. In some cases, it's legally required. So
that's right.
For sure. So I guess one more question in terms of a kind of engagement programs is, what's your process for kind of determining when a client kind of comes to you to decide whether you should use an engagement program or whether you should use a default program?
You mean like engagement program versus just a campaign?
Yeah. That's right. Just, your plain default program that you always see.
It's, one of the criteria would be, are you willing to learn a new aspect of the marketing tool? Because some of them aren't. And another would be, how sophisticated do you want it to be? If you just want to send a series of 5 emails to a group to a specific group, then don't bother with the engagement program. But if you want to be able to do up to add content, make sure people don't get duplicates, and do all those features of the engagement program, if there's a reason to do that, then I would say definitely do it.
Okay. I see we had a new guest that came in here as well too. Shirlene, if I'm saying that correctly, if you would just want to say hi and just kind of introduce yourself for just a second and just tell us where you're from and how long you've been using Marketo.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So I work for RightScale, and I've been using Marketo for about 4 years now. And I'm based in Sacramento, California.
Okay, great. Thanks. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Have you used I keep saying nurturing, but the engagement program?
Yeah. So I actually, I do have like 3 engagement programs that I've set up, but I feel like I've set it up like at the pretty basic level. I'm always trying to figure out like how are people, create like I don't get the purpose, I guess, of creating programs within nurtures. Like I don't know, I guess, what the pros are for that, or if it's really necessary. If I'm using different like same content but different email copy for different nurture streams. So there's still a lot that I know I need to learn about engagement programs.
Yeah, I've never used a program within a stream either. You might mention in that maybe you had. Did you have some experience with that?
Yeah, my experience isn't direct. So I've worked in larger instances. So with really large software companies, for example, and they've had multiple workspaces, multiple areas of the business in terms of different business units. And so I have had colleagues that have used engagement programs and have actually put in email programs within that. And my recollection is there was a couple of reasons why you would do that. So the first thing is for A/B testing, you really want to be doing those inside of an email program. And so having an email program with 2 pieces of content in there that gets triggered off within the stream gives you the ability to not just grab these engagement numbers off your engagement program, but also to do A/B testing for subject lines or content or whatever you want to use. And then the other reason is that, inside of those email programs, you have the ability to use multiple flow steps, so you can control some of your wait times at a deeper level than just setting a cadence. And you have an extra layer of smart lists that you can add to be able to further refine the audience further within those programs. So it gets really complicated. It really depends on kind of what your client requirements are, or your when I say your client, I mean in my case it's an external client, but in your case it might be an internal stakeholder. And so it's really interesting to kind of go in there, and what I would recommend is to kind of experiment a little bit and kind of start off with an A/B test and build out an email program and then add that into your stream. Bruce, you were saying earlier in your presentation, which is on the recording, by the way, is you might want to go in and add in different pieces, and you can actually see in the reporting here which pieces of content are helping with engagement and which ones maybe are falling flat. And so if you clone one of those email assets out and put that further down into your engagement stream in an email program, that might be a good way to kind of repurpose that content and do a little bit of A/B testing on it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you think, would that work for you, Shirlene? I don't know your instances, right? So
well, my first question is, I actually thought that you couldn't use an email program in a stream. I thought you could only use like the regular programs, but not an actual email program in the stream. So it sounds like you can use the email program.
Yeah, that's my recollection on it. If you could test it actually. So, you might, I don't know if you want to whip one up right here, Bruce, but, or maybe that's something that we could try, and that might make a good discussion thread actually within the user group too, is to be able to kind of, let's give that a shot as a group, and maybe that might be a good learning exercise for us as a group to be able to kind of look into that and compare notes, if you're open to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I've always just put the emails in like you're talking about, Charlene.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, everything else that you said, like, because right now I feel like our engagement programs are getting more complicated, or we do need them to be a little bit more robust. So if I need to figure out how to transition someone that's in a current engagement program and if they visit a certain web page and download a piece of content, switch them to a different engagement program. I guess right now I'm not really worried about showing them duplicate content. I think the way we're handling that is by just like changing the subject line in the other engagement program, because we are using the same content, the same asset in multiple engagement programs. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think you can do all that in the transition rules.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I don't really use the transition rules right now.
That's how you would do it. Yep. 'Cause in the transition rules, you can see it's just like any other campaign. You can set up your smart list however you want with any of these triggers.
Okay.
You can set it up by page visits web page, or all this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I might play around with that and then see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. If and again, it's the group's designed to be kind of open and interactive too. So I'd be interested to see what you learn from that, and I think a lot of us would too. I think all of us are in this because we want to be able to learn more about this aspect of the system, and so if you're willing to share some of your learnings from that, I think that helps us as a group become stronger, better marketers too.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely either, I don't know who I can get in contact with once I kind of figure something out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can drop me a line. We're all on Marketo Nation, right? So we're all on that user group thread.
Okay.
And, I have a LinkedIn group as well set up too. So if you want to kind of join into that, that's a great way to kind of interact and to be able to share ideas and thoughts.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, great, Bruce. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I really appreciate it. And let me actually dive into. I've got a couple of slides actually on what's coming up next, just across the user group, and I guess some things that are really still happening. So we talked a little bit, Shirlene, about Summit, and we got a discount code from Marketo to lob off $350 for that. So you're in Sacramento, so you're not that far. Hopefully you are able to come out there and join us.
Yeah, funny. I'm actually I've gone to the Marketo Summit for the past 3 years, and I decided not to go this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're having a breakout room specifically for manufacturers this year. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'll definitely listen in on to like the streaming sessions and all that stuff afterwards. So.
Okay. So for anybody who's coming, so let me first of all kind of talk about that April session is going to be our next meeting. We're not going to do a April virtual user group session, but it'll be an in-person one, so it'll be a good place for us to kind of get to meet each other face to face, and for everybody who's in the group, which is, I think we're at a little over 60 people right now between the LinkedIn and the Marketo Nation group, so it's a pretty good size for something that's brand new, really, this being our second event. So I'm really looking forward to getting to see everybody, and so to keep the momentum going, have asked a friend and a colleague, Dale Knudsen from Centric Consulting, who we worked on Microsoft's Marketo instance together actually a couple years ago. And so Dale's going to go over workspaces and partitions, which are a really great feature of Marketo that I don't think a lot of people know about. You have to have a pretty sizable instance to be able to use that, but there's some pretty neat things that you can do with it. And it's something I'm working on right now, so I thought it would be an interesting topic to kind of have Dale come on. And that's going to be Wednesday, May 23rd, and tentatively it's 5 p.m. Eastern time. But again, if you guys have preferences, I think we'll probably put a poll out in the user group to just check timing if anybody has a different preference in terms of what day part they'd like to be able to see that. And so that's it for us. At this point, we can do a breakout room, or if you guys want to stay on and socialize, it's great. If you have other stuff, that's fine too. Pretty easy going either way. But again, Bruce, thank you for this, and to everybody else, we'll have a recording up online shortly and a copy of the slide deck that's available to be able to view. And by all means, please keep being active. And if you have friends or colleagues that are in the manufacturing space as well, please feel free to invite them and spread word if you would.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
I just, while you were talking, I did a quick and dirty email program, and you cannot put an email program in the streams.
It's the email. Okay. So it's a default program.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyways, I'm having too much fun here.
Thanks for verifying that.
Yeah. So now my next question on that is, and if you have a default program that has a nested email program, is that allowed in?
Let's see. I have one here.
Okay.
Yeah. Those you can go in. So I've got one here where it sends an email based on a campaign, and that'll go in. So it's just the email campaign, the actual email program.
Email program. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the ones that I saw, there were a number of things that were nested inside of those programs. So
that's probably the difference.
Yeah. Okay, great guys. So yeah, definitely. I'm going to pause the recording right now. Somewhere in here.